Family Research Council President Tony Perkins is kind of unsure about this whole pregnancy and birth thing works, because he thinks that now that we have marriage equality across all 50 states, that will somehow lead to more kids being born out of wedlock. Interesting. Well, let's listen to what he has to say in an interview with the Washington Examiner.
I think we're going to see the further deconstruction of the family. We are going to see the impact of this upon marriage, as we've seen in some of the Scandinavian countries, which means we're going to have more children born out of wedlock. It's not going to be long until we'll break the 50% mark.
So wait, more gay people getting married means more kids being born to people who aren't married. Just like the Scandinavian countries. That's interesting. So let's break down that part right now. So there was an article in the Huffington Post a couple of years ago, in 2013, that said in 1995, Sweden allowed the equivalent of civil unions and only legalized same-sex marriage in 2009. So 2009, that's when Sweden, one of the Scandinavian countries, legalized same-sex marriage, just like we had just done. Now, that is now it references a paper called The Trend Reversal in Marriage in Sweden by somebody named Sofi Ohlsson of Stockholm University. Now, he wrote in this paper, quoted by the Huffington Post, Sweden has seen a reversal in marriage trends from mainly declining marriage rates since the late 1960s to increasing rates from 1998 and onwards. So, wait a minute. So, there was a decrease in marriages from 1960 to 1998 and onwards. After 1998, Sweden's marriage rate actually increased. Now, if you can remember, in 1995, as I just pointed out, Sweden actually allowed civil unions and only legalized same-sex marriage in 2009. So in 1995, they said, okay, civil unions. Here you go, guys. You can have a civil union. And marriage rates went up. But it was also on the increasing anyway from 1995 onward. So, I'm sorry, 1998 onward. Interesting. So you expand marriage to a group of people, and then you see marriage rates start to climb. But wait a minute. That's the opposite of what Tony Perkins thinks is going to happen. All right, well, let's look at some more. Let's look at another Nordic country, another Scandinavian country. Okay, so let's look at Norway. Now, according to this, domestic partnerships began in Norway in 1993, and same-sex marriages were also legalized in 2009. The general trend has been upward for the number of marriages. In addition, the agency says that the trend for divorces from 2003 to 2012 has also been down by 7.7%, while the trend in marriages has been up 8.9%. But wait a minute. I thought that according to Tony Perkins, that we are going to see less people get married, more people get divorced, and more kids being born out of wedlock. But if more people are getting married than they are getting divorced, it really kind of debunks that whole claim. Gays are not destroying marriage. They're not destroying straight people marriages. In fact, it's leading to more marriages of everybody. That's kind of the whole point, is to expand marriage to other groups of people. You do that, and you're going to see marriage rates go up. All right. Now, actually, according to the OECD, marriage rates in most developed countries have been falling for some time. So he would be right to point out that, look, marriage as an institution is decreasing in the Western countries. But where he's wrong is saying, like, look, it's because of the gays. It's because of the culture wars. Maybe it's got other factors. Now, I'll continue with this Huffington Post article. Two exceptions they mentioned were Sweden and Spain, both of which legalized same-sex marriages. Interesting. But overall marriages are declining all over the Western world, whether or not they legalize same-sex marriage. which means that it's not really that big of a factor when you factor in marriage, which I agree with. This suggests that the Western world is undergoing a culture shift to which marriage is not seen as being necessary to having a family. Now, I agree with that. Now, I'm a married man, but when it comes to the idea of marriage, if you want to get married, or if you don't want to get married and still have a family, I think you can do that. I don't think there's any bad effects that will come from not being married. In fact, marriage, as it stands now, the benefit of being married is getting certain tax breaks and certain perks when it comes from the government. Now, Attorney Perkins isn't all interested in that. And in fact, he's going to talk about it more.
So do you think then the ruling is going to lead to a spike in out-of-wedlock births and divorce outside of the normal trajectory?
I don't want to people to say, well, this ruling is going to immediately result in this. What I'm saying is that any policy step, like you go back to no-fault divorce, we have seen this escalation of out-of-wedlock births. We've seen the decrease in marriage rates as a result of policy changes that move away from the historic meaning of marriage, whether that is in heterosexual marriage with no-fault divorce and laws such as that, or a total redefinition that we're seeing with same-sex marriage. No one can legitimately argue that these type of radical policy change will not impact the institution. It will. What will be the exact consequences and what will be the timing of them, I don't know. But I am quite confident, based upon history, when we change this core societal institution of marriage, moving away from the norm and the historical standard, it has negative consequences.
Well, you know what? I don't know what the consequences are going to be. And then he says, but I know they're going to be bad. I know they're going to be negative because of the gays. Because the gays can get married, that's why we're seeing this trend. But this trend existed before gay marriage was legal. Less people were getting married in America even before this ruling. It's not as if a couple of days ago, now that same-sex marriage is now legal, people are like, oh, now we're not going to get married. Now we're going to get divorced even more. And it's going to completely wreck the institution of marriage. No, there are other factors included in this, and same-sex marriage actually increases the level of marriages, because now there's a whole bunch of people that want to get married that are now going to get married of the same sex. But no, once again, these are facts, right? And Tony Perkins doesn't respond to facts. He doesn't respond to facts, logic, or reason, or data, apparently, either. In the countries, as I said, that legalize same-sex marriage, they've seen an increase in marriage. Now, you want to get into some of the reasons that people aren't getting married in America? Okay, we'll get into some of those reasons. I think one of those is there is a changing culture, which I said, people are not seeing the institution of marriage as important as it used to be. Also, there are people that are putting off marriage because of debt. People, aren't getting married as much, maybe because they're focusing on their careers more often. There are different factors. And as far as same-sex marriage being a major one, like Tony Perkins wants to really kind of blame, he wants to blame same-sex marriage, I don't think that is all right, and the data backs it up.